over to the YouTube. Make sure everything's working over here. Perfect. Go over to the YouTube, and we're going to. I'm sorry, Dom. Sorry, May. I'm just going to commentate over this real quick. Shout out to Energy Series, the championship. Just happened at the Energy store. It was really cool to see all those championship players come down. Shout out to my buddy Blake. Blake's a legend. We play at his house sometimes with my buddy Mike and Ryan and uh, my fellow Goblin and the fellow Izzet play or Wizards player. We got a good play test group. I call them the NRG guys. They're the NRG team. We got Team Flex Slot who play at NRG store, but we also got the NRG guys, which are just the local grinders who hit all the RCQs. And Blake's a experienced counterspell player. So we started off with the fetch land and pass. Opponent goes a Misty and pass. Goes Surveil land. I see a Warren Instigator, and I have the combo in my hand. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is gonna take a push. This is gonna take some removal out of the hand. And at first he says it resolves, and I'm really happy because I'm like, okay, it's gonna die, but it resolved. So that means he doesn't have counter spells. Then he thinks about it, and he's like, well, can we walk it back? I forgot that the only removal I have is a spell snare. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's still I haven't done anything. I just cast it and you fetched. So I allow him to walk it back. We spell snare the Warren Instigator, which this Warren Instigator would have gone matron into Kiki Jiki, and I would have just had like a gigantic board. And I would have just been telling him you have to Toxic Deluge because I'm gonna have a billion guys. As is, I still have the Lord and the combo. So I'm kind of playing to the fact that he fetched Basic Island. So he has to have another land here. For a second, I thought he only had one land. He's just really thinking about which land to play. I guess he only has one. He thought scours to appear weak, which is a super underrated play. Thought scour to appear weak, then hit your land drop. Gonna fetch shock, unearth on the trespasser, targeting the instigator. And then the door opens and they're like, wait, you forgot to draw off your thought scour. Because if you go back, he milled 2 cards and then picked up his deck because he was shortcutting to fetch. However, he didn't draw off the thought scour. So yeah, so thought scour, then fetch shock, get the land. Everything still ends up the same. I'm trying to make sure that I understand Trespasser's ability. It does drain gain. I was curious if it was just drain or if it was drain gain, and it does say drain gain. So he gains 1, I lose 1. So I should be at 17. Boom. There we go. Because we walked it back. Just a little bit of we're going fast because we've played this matchup a billion times. But shout out to Coverage for catching the fact that he didn't draw off the Thought Scour. I would have never. I was doing sequencing for the next 3 turns, so I wasn't going to catch that. Harbinger on top. In my head, I'm like, holy shit! But I know he's gonna die. Something that this Harbinger is just gonna grab me a Ringleader and set up for the future, or a land even, so I can just cast my spells. But in commentary, they're screaming, he doesn't have any removal. He doesn't have any removal. And so what I'm thinking here is Slam, Snoop. I have a Trawler in my hand that I could play as a land. I decide not to play the land to try to surprise Blake into thinking that I can't combo next turn because I missed my land drop. There's the land. He thinks that it's going to happen the following turn, so he gets 1 turn to set up and double dig for a fatal push or something. But I'm doing the math in my head, and if he unearthed the Trespasser instead of leaving up removal, when he knows that I play combo, That probably means that he doesn't have the ability to leave up removal, which means he doesn't have removal. So I'm going to take the line that's the most risky. The only thing this loses to is a Bowmaster. He can have infinite counter spells. He can counter literally everything that I play. Okay, so he lets the Harbinger resolve. Now the one thing that I have to think about here is if he can just kill the Snoop in response to the target. So I'm going to pass, and I'm going to say, I take a second to think about this, because if I just go off here, he has 7 cards in, or 6 or 7 cards in hand. Yeah, 6 cards in hand. So if I just pass, he's incentivized to flash in the Bowmaster because he's the aggressor. He's going to try to kill my Harbinger, and now I go infinite. I'm going to tap to the Snoop to make a hasty copy of it. Then it is untapped. I'm going to tap that to target the Snoop. Do that 800 million times. The last one's going to tap to target the Harbinger. The Harbinger enters, changes the top card from a Kiki Jiki to a Sling Gang, and I drain him for 800 million. Ooh. Really, really, really close game. Came down to him not having actual counterspell and me playing around a Bowmaster. So part me thinking about what I could lose to, which is always important. If you're ahead in a situation and your opponent has cards and mana up, a lot of the times what you want to do is you try to ask yourself, okay, so what can I do in this situation to advance my position without compromising what I'm doing? So like, make sure that you don't expose a weakness while moving forward for the win. So kind of took it slow there, played the combo, make my opponent act, because I believe that I'm of the chess philosophy where if your opponent moves first, they lose. So if we have both set up our board states, and an easier example is if you go to combat math. You have a board state, I have a board state. We both have pretty much equal stuff. You attack me, I get to block, preferably for me, take the damage, and then kill you on the crackback, right? So the person who acts first is always going to be in trouble. So when I combo and he says, oh, that's fine, I'm not going to take the first action. I'm just going to let them take the first action, because then they need 2 pieces of interaction in order to kill my combo. And I have, and they only have 1 black source. That was my point. So super removal heavy, super aggressive deck here. You're going to go Thought Scour, Unearth either a Frog, a Harbinger, a Graveyard Trespasser, an Oculus, or just hard cast a Murktide. Lots of removal. So we got a total of 2 Sting in the Stupors, 2 Shoot the Sheriffs, 3 Fatal Push, and that's all the removal, and an Ottawa. That's all the removal in the deck. Can board in 2 Bowmasters. Wait a second. Oh, this must not be an updated list because the Bowmasters are only in the sideboard. I'm trying to read. I don't think I see a Bowmaster in the main. Okay, so he must not have updated his list before starting today. But anyways, 2 Oakish Bowmasters in the sideboard, a Brazen Borrower, 3 Consigns. Actually, wouldn't bring the Consigns. 2 Deluge. So just cut as many counterspells as you can. And yeah, this matchup was a lot of fun. Honestly, that first hand was 1 land, a Leyline, but unplayable. One of those things where I could just try to win off the back of a Leyline, but I feel like, I have a better shot if I go for a playable 6, and there's always a better hand out there, especially with the London Mulligan. Yeah, and then I realized that's the bottom card, so if there's 7 here already, that's going to be a problem. Okay, so now we found a Cavern and a Ringleader. This hand does not have a Leyline. It's just lands, Matron, Ringleader. And I'm thinking he's probably just going to go fetch land pass 2 turns in a row. And so I could dig for a Leyline here, but I feel like the top deck Vial makes this hand a billion times better, because and he thinks about this for a second. He's going to respond with it on the stack to try to dig for a Force Negation. But yeah, so now on turn 3, I can tutor for a Snoop, put a Snoop into play. or tutor for a 2-drop of choice and put it in play. I could get an Instigator and sneak it in. Vial makes your matrons a lot better because as long as what you're tutoring for is either a 1 or a 2, your Vial can be on that number and you can just cheat it right into play. Opponent is going to Thought Scour in response to the Vial, mill 2, and then draw. So mills Fatal Push counterspell, which is good for me, and then draws Fatal Push, not good for me. The Vial does resolve on tap of keep. Consider Murktide Region. Play a Marsh Flats. Boom. Play a Bloodstained and pass after taking up the Vial to 1. Yeah, so this hand is really slow. I have 2 spells left. They can't be countered, but they're very low impact. If we mulligan to 5 in this hand to find a leyline, and we just jam leyline and try to like force the combo, we're probably out of cards. And knowing the hand that Blake has, I'd lose that position. So I feel like this keep was fine. It's just pretty slow against the Oculus, especially when they can turn 3 it. Turn 3 is not as scary as turn 2. However, it's scary. Excuse me. I do have 0 flyers in my modern deck. I have more flyers in goblins in my standard and pioneer deck because Dropkick Bomber gives all my goblins flying. But I don't think that Dropkick Bomber is good enough for modern. I really want to be aggressive in modern, but it never really works. Binning the Stomping Ground. Bidding the Stomping Ground because we're trying not to draw lands here. We have Ringleader and I think it's Matron, Ringleader, 3 lands in hand. Yeah. Oh, and Trawler. Okay, so we do have a Boggart Trawler, which is the Bog. Now, Matron, I'm not worried until I look at my deck. Because I have a Sting Scourger, which can unsummon this Oculus, and then I'm just like so far ahead. But I have cut my Sting Scourger to my dismay. That's my eye flick there. My light grimace is my sideboarding decision coming back to bite me. However, just grab a Snoop, present lethal next turn. If my Ringleader hits a Harbinger, I go Violent Snoop at the end step, untap upkeep, Vial goes to 3, draw, play land, Ringleader. Ringleader's 4 looks. If we include the draw, I have 5 looks at a Harbinger. Or a Matron, because Matron can Vial in, grab the Harbinger, and the next turn I can combo kill. As is. Chump block. Just to save myself some life. Put a Snoop into play. The Harbinger's on top. Murder, as expected. You always expect the goblins to die. The goblins never live. The whole point of living is to die. Uptick 3 on the Vial. Draw the Harbinger. Now I'm thinking. I think we just go Ringleader. Ringleader's gonna trigger. I have Counterspell. So he's able to cast it and target it, but then it just gets countered, which is actually a good thing for him because then he puts another card in the graveyard for future Oculuses. I have a matron and a sling gang. And here, I think I make a blunder here. Because I could bog him. What is his hand? Is it Unearth, Counterspell? I believe that's a Fatal Push is the bottom card. I go Matron for something else. I could just bog him here. So block a 2/2, take 7, go to 7, bog him. See, but that's the issue is I don't know there's another Oculus face down. And I blocked both of them. And just like my gut told me to switch the ringleader and the matron. Like I just instinctively did it. I didn't even think about it. And it traded with the Oculus, which was bad because then he could unearth it. But if I just go Trawler here, no, I would have to go to damage, still trade with the same one I traded with the ringleader, not activate the vial, second main in response to the unearth, exile his graveyard. So he has 7, still 5 in the air, and I still die in 2 turns. I feel very behind either way. This is just well played by Blake. Like, super patient, calculating, pushing his advantage, making sure that he protects his threats. And this Oculus just making 2/2s is ridiculously strong. Super, super, super undervalued. So the value of the eyeball. So the last remaining card from the ringleader in hand that Blake knows about is the Sling Gang. And then the munitions expert is the card I tutored from the matron. Block. Now, if I don't block with this matron, I get to sequence things a little bit better. I get to keep a 1/1. The ringleader dies. The matron dies. I take 5, go to 9. Unearth the Oculus, and I'm dead in the air the next turn. So then I have to hope and pray that it will, but for day I'm still killed. Yeah, it's a lot of 2/2s. File goes to 4. So I'm trying to figure out if I can kill one of these things with the munitions expert and then block and sack to drain gain to stay alive for one more turn. If I can stay alive for one more turn, I might be able to pull some stuff off. But it's not looking good. I'm still running through the permutations. Yeah, the fetch is fine. Even though it is awkward. I'm dead to 2/2s and a flyer anyways. 9 and 8 are the same. So my sequence here is I'm going to Harbinger to bog him. No, sorry. Other bogger. Harbinger to grab. It's not good. I'm thinking about grabbing a second Sling Gang just to try to like chain things together. I really should have left the Sting Scourger in the deck, taken out the Krenko or something. Because, just grab another Sling Gang. Because the Krenko doesn't really do anything. It's way too slow. Whereas the Sting Scourger gets me out of a situation where he has an 18/18 Murktide. And nothing else really does. Blake's got infinite damage here. I can Vile in the Sling. So he's thinking, does he even need to attack with all of them? He's going to review the face down cards that he's got. Thinks about it, looks at his hand, realizes if he flips this one face up, it's lethal. I'm doing the math. I'm like, okay, well, I can kill one and stay alive for one turn, but I'm very dead. Yeah. Declare attacks, activate after attacks before blocks, activate, put Sling Gang into play, make 2/1/1 goblins, uh, flash in Munitions Expert to try to deal 5 damage. If I hadn't blocked with the Matron, this still works. Actually, no, it doesn't, because he's going to respond on the stack. I think if I had one more goblin, I still get to deal an eyeball, but I don't get to survive because I lose the life gain. And that's what I point to there. Game 3. A perfect example of why you mulligan to 5 for Leyline. You know, that was a slow hand that I kept because I don't know why I kept it. Oh, it was the Cavern. I remember looking at the Cavern being like, oh my god, this is really good against his mono counterspell deck. And then I top decked the Vile, and I thought I'd be able to combo fast, but he does bring in a great deal of removal. I will say the whole point of ley lines is if you bring them in, you have to mulligan to them. So give yourself a stipulation if you're playing ley lines every time, like unless you have a hand that just wins by itself, mulligan to the ley line, because more often than not, if you're inclined to bring it in, the deck you're trying to bring it in against is very, very susceptible to it. So I look at the Krenko, I go, you know what, Krenko, you definitely were supposed to be a Sting Scourger there. So I put the Sting Scourger back in the deck, and I'm looking at that Chalice, like, Chalice, you could be something else. You see, so we cut the Chalice and put the Sting Scourger back in, and we leave the Krenko and we don't bring in a second card. Okay. Because if I was able to tutor for a Sting Scourger there, I feel like it takes so much less damage. You can't cast the second Oculus. The first Oculus fueled the second Oculus. So that was just slight metagame, slight decision-making error on my part. I think game 3, I'm hoping to replicate what happened game 1. Trying to hydrate, get my wires lubricated, because the brain works better when hydrated. Excuse me. Pop out the chat. Boom. Appreciate you. What's up, Dom? What's up, Sal? Thank you so much for dropping in. Yeah, so taking a mold to 6. I think the first hand was also 1 land, but that's fine. You know, you gotta put the bad hands away, and you gotta find better hands. There's always a better hand out there. You just gotta not give up. All right, so this hand is literally perfect. I want to, like, when I go through this. So it's Vile, Snoop, Harbinger, 3 lands. One of them is a Cavern, and we have a Matron. So it's a 7-card hand with the Cavern Vile start, the combo, and a Matron to grab a Ringleader or removal if we need it. We do not have a ley line. This is a hand that I feel like I can win with. We don't want to turn to the Snoop. We want to surveil. So we bottom the 3rd land. We go turn 1 Cavern, Vile, pass it over. Now, his hand is almost all counterspells. It's 2 lands, Stern Scolding, counterspell, Consider, is what I think. And so passes a land, plays a land and then passes, untaps, upkeeps, and draws. I just play this fetch land that I top deck, so now I have 3 lands. I still get to surveil. Excuse me. And the cool thing about this is not playing the Snoop on 2 gives Blake the opportunity to tap out for a frog and take the role of the aggressor. And so he's much less concerned about dying to a combo. And if I'm able to just lure him into a like sense of security where he taps out 2 turns in a row, I can just end step Vial for 2, put a Snoop into play, untap, take a Vial to 3 combo. This sequence is also good because it allows me to act like I'm going to combo, but I could also just play value lines into value lines. Next turn, I'm going to matron for a ringleader. And if my combo gets disrupted, I have this uncounterable source of card advantage in the ringleader. Um, and then I can just play a value line. And if he can't stop my value line, I just kill him with normal creatures. And if he does use his removal on my creatures, then I can deal him infinite damage with the combo. It was literally the top card. You love it when your Surveil land is the top card. So in this position, yeah, we're looking for any spell. Goes to 2 and I'll draw. It's another matron. Matron's amazing here. Get a basic, play a matron. So I'm just going to shortcut, grab basic mountain. Then grab the card. So Instigator is really enticing here. It could keep the frog from attacking forever. If he doesn't have removal, he just has to keep the frog back as a blocker. But I realized that if he does have Bowmaster, it's like the biggest blowout in the world. And I've wasted a matron and all my tempo. So I'm going to grab a backup Snoop, telegraphing to him that I do have the combo. However, I didn't play it on Snoop on turn 2, so that tells him that I probably don't have a backup Snoop. That's the only Snoop that I have. Whereas we know I do have a backup. And so he's going to kill this Snoop and then kind of feel okay and secure for the next Snoop that comes down. And then we have the opportunity to combo kill him. Blake has a really interesting choice here. He's got 7 cards in hand. One of them is a Fatal Push, 2 are lands. He's got a Stern Scolding, a Consider, I'm trying to read the other ones. I think he's got a Fatal Push and 4 counter spells, or at least 1 cantrip. I'm saying I will chump block with this matron all day if you'd let me. And he says, well, now that I know that you're going to block, I'll jump it. And I say, that's fine. This can keep you from casting an Oculus. Pitch a counter spell. That does make sense. Pitching another counter spell? Nope, just that one. And then draws a counter spell. End step, put a Snoop into play. I'm hoping for a matron or something value oriented. It's an Arena of Glory, which is really good because that's a land. He fatal pushes the Snoop. Snoop's gone. Now we know that I have Snoop, Harbinger, Matron. There's my last cards. Untap. In the upkeep, I have to figure out, do I put this vial to 3 or keep it on 2 and try to win the following turn? I decide to go on 3 because now I'm going to try to play a value line. I'm going to play a matron. Matron's going to tutor for a ringleader. Ringleader's going to go grab something. Hopefully 1 or 2 goblins. 3 or 4 is like a rarity, but 1 or 2 is all we need. A card that replaces itself and is a 2/2 haste. It's pretty decent. Uncounterable ringleader. He's like, I have 6 cards and I can't cast them. And that's really painful. Ringleader triggers. Boom. So we get a Squee and a Sling Gang. 2 very aggressive cards, which are perfectly panning out with my I'm going to take this slow and grind strategy. He's going to have to use his removal on these 2 cards, or he's just going to die to 1/1s. So now we're tied up at 16. I know that he can just discard his cards to Frog to cast an Oculus. So to push him, if he's got an awkward hand, I'm going to attack with the ringleader and the matron. considers in response, looking for removal. Bins Innocuous, because that's good. Then draws the consider. And then I consider again. Bin a land, draw a land. No blocks, goes to 13, and I pass. Untap upkeep. Interesting choice here. He has the opportunity to cast Innocuous, hold up Counterspell, or hold up Counterspell and Bowmasters. If he plays a land, you can do both. You can do Counterspell plus Bowmaster, and then can't cast Oculus. If he goes for the Oculus plan, I feel like he has a good amount of blockers. But I have so much damage next turn. If he taps out, I think I just can win. So it's 3 blockers. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coming at him. You can block 4 of it. So that's 3 coming through. I sack the 2 that he blocks. Oh, it's 3 blocks. So I can't kill him next turn, but I can put him in a really tough spot where I have a board and he's in a awkward predicament. So he discards a bunch of cards to draw. Plays the land, allows me to pass. Yeah. I was gonna say I think he missed his draw. Oculus, untap, upkeep, draw. Oh, and yeah, if he hadn't jumped the frog, he could have cast the Oculus. That's really tough. 2, 3. Okay, so he totally could have discarded the rest of his cards, cast an Oculus, make 2 blockers. Buddy Mike walking up saying he's got to go to the office tomorrow. He's got a dip. So we're like, dude, see you next week. Sometimes we go to Portillo's afterwards. Shout out to Portillo's for being awesome. All right, so I'm doing sequencing in my head. He left up Bowmasters, which I think is smart because I could just combo kill him here if he tapped out for the Oculus. As is, I'm going to play through some removal, play a Sling Gang, enters, but trigger on the stack. Bowmaster target the Sling Gang. In response to the target, I'll put a Pashlik into play. Pashlik reads, whenever another goblin dies, I get to deal a damage to any target. So then targeting Sling Gang, or trigger on the stack targeting Sling Gang, sack target Blake, drain gain. I gain 1, he loses 1. Then when the Pashlik Mons trigger deals a damage to any target, I'm going to target the Bowmaster. So I drain gain, and I'm able to shoot down his Bowmaster's blocker. Then I get the 2 tokens. I can attack and get in for 4. And now the tides of this game have turned. Yep, the tides have turned immensely. It's gone from an even race to I'm going to win next turn. And I have a Harbinger and a Snoop left in my hand, and I could try to combo kill. However, I feel like the aggro plan is more like guaranteed here. I can, in my upkeep, activate Vial, put a Sling Gang on top, go to my draw step, draw Sling Gang. Each goblin that's not Sling Gang or Pashlik Mons is 2. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'll use my cursor. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then you include the Sling Gang tokens. 12, 14. The Pashlik is the last one that deals 2. So that's 16 plus the Sling Gang is 17. So I've set access to 17 points of damage. Oh, and I didn't count the Harbinger that I used to tutor. So that's 19 points of damage without combat. If we factor in combat, it gets pretty bad. That's the math that I just did. I double checked there on I had done the math internally, but I wanted to double check with a finger count. Make sure that I wasn't going to punt. Blake's moving very quickly because Blake is sensing that this game is either over, is going to be over one way or the other. Play another eyeball. Discard 3 cards. Discard 3 cards. Cast another eyeball. My head's going, whoa! I'm gonna win this match because I'm looking at him count his graveyard like that's an eyeball. He's gonna cast an eyeball. And if he taps out for another eyeball, I think this game is over. Just gonna jump the frog. Go to combat and attack. I have no effects. I want to see how much damage he does. You can discard 2 cards still and jump the frog so he can heal 3 in the air. Really close games. Really, really close games. Frog goes to 3. Frog goes to 4. 4 counters. I'm going to take 5, go to 9. Opponent draws the Fatal Push, but they don't have a fetch land. Blake is trying to figure out if it's worth it to hold up Fatal Push and Counterspell, or to play another Oculus. If he plays another Oculus, he has 4 blockers. But the Sling Gang line doesn't matter because blockers, it takes it completely out of combat. So I pass. He does his Oculus trigger. Activate before my draw step in my upkeep. Harbinger. Put the Sling Gang on top. I've already done the math. Go to draw. I will like to cast this Sling Gang. Trigger on the stack. Trigger on the stack. Tries to kill it. Looks at his Fatal Push. On the stack for the Sling Gang, looks at the Fatal Push, realizes even the Pashalik is 3, so the Fatal Push really not being able to hit these mana inefficient cards with its ultra mana efficient line or text. Sling Gang resolves, trigger. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I count. I don't even need the sling. I don't even need the tokens. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 13 just with the Pashlik with the trigger on the stack. We're still able to get there. Shout out to my buddy Blake. Yeah, double Oculus and Fatal Push in the hand. Fatal Push just being super awkward. He's saying, I probably should have just like discarded more cards to cast the Oculus, but he didn't want to tap out because I could just combo kill him. And if he would have tapped out, I would have combo killed him. So that was just that was a really good exchange. I drew pretty well. The ringleader hit what I needed to draw.